My name is Eliana. A few years ago, I was living a busy, successful life. I was married to a kind and smart man, Edmund, who was a professor at the University of Guinea. We had been married for 10 years. I was working as a headmistress in one of the best private primary and secondary schools in Guinea. Life was good, and we were respected in our community. At the same time, I was also finishing my master's degree in educational leadership. For this, I had to travel to Spain, to a city called Seville for 3 months. It was part of my final research and training. I was excited, but also a little nervous to leave my home and my husband for so long. Edmund understood, and he supported me. I arrived in Seville in early May. The city was warm and full of life. The buildings were old and beautiful, the people were friendly, and the food was amazing. I stayed in a small apartment close to the university where I was studying. One day, after a long class, I decided to take a walk through the famous Plaza de España. The sun was setting, and the air was soft and calm. I sat on a bench, eating an ice cream, enjoying the moment. That's when I saw him, a tall, confident man with salt and pepper hair and dark sunglasses. He was wearing a clean white shirt and walking slowly, as if he had no worries in the world. I didn't pay much attention at first, but then he looked at me and smiled. "Buenos tardes," he said. I smiled back. "Good afternoon," I replied. He walked closer and sat on the other end of my bench. We started talking. His name was Baltasar Ngonga and he was on holiday in Spain. He told me he worked in international finance, and later I found out he was actually the leader of the National Financial Investigation Agency. That sounded very serious, but he made it sound so simple. We talked for over an hour. It felt easy. Natural. Like I had known him for years. Over the next weeks, we kept meeting. Sometimes by chance, sometimes on purpose. He would take me to small cafes, quiet parks, art galleries, and sometimes we just walked and talked for hours. I told him I was married, and he respected that. But still, the connection between us grew stronger every day. There was something about Baltasar, his calm way of speaking, his deep understanding of the world, the way he listened to me, really listened. He didn't rush me. He didn't try to take me away. But he made me feel seen, like I hadn't felt in years. I started to think about him at night. I missed him when I didn't see him. And deep inside, I knew something was changing inside me. One evening, it was raining softly in Seville. Baltasar asked me to meet him at a small restaurant near the river. The place was almost empty. There was soft jazz playing in the background. We talked, we laughed, we even danced slowly under the rain outside the restaurant. That night, something happened between us. We shared our first kiss. It was slow, full of meaning, full of questions, and full of answers at the same time. I knew then, in that moment, that I had fallen for him. When my studies ended, I returned to Guinea. I went back to my job as headmistress, and I was still married to Edmund. But something inside me had changed forever. Baltasar and I didn't stop talking. We started calling each other often. We used secret emails, messages, and voice notes. He would sometimes send me flowers or letters through private courier services. And then, one day, he came to Guinea. He said he had official business in West Africa, but I knew the truth. He had come to see me. We met at a quiet hotel by the sea. We spent the weekend together, walking along the beach, talking about life, about dreams, about regrets. He told me he wished he had met me earlier in life. I said nothing, but inside, I was thinking the same. Months passed. Our relationship became deeper, stronger. Baltasar visited Guinea often, always saying it was for work. But we knew the truth. We never talked about leaving our lives behind. We never spoke of divorce or running away. We loved in silence, in stolen hours, in whispered phone calls. At school, I was still the respected headmistress. At home, I was still the loyal wife. But in my heart, I belonged to someone else. My love for Balthasar was like a hidden flower, quiet, strong, and always growing. After I came back to Guinea and returned to my normal life as a headmistress, I tried to forget about Balthasar, but love doesn't just disappear like that. A few weeks after my return, I received a short message from him. I miss your voice. I will be in Guinea soon. My heart jumped. I tried to act normal in front of everyone, but deep inside, I was smiling like a young girl. And just like he said, he came. His first visit was short, just 2 days. But after that, he started visiting more often. At first, he said it was for financial meetings with the government. But we both knew it wasn't just business. It was for me. Every time Balthasar came to Guinea, he would call me the day before and say, I will be waiting for you tomorrow. Usual time. Usual place. The next day, after school, when the children had gone home and the teachers were preparing to leave, I would look outside the window. And there he would be waiting in a black SUV, sunglasses on, window down, smiling at me. I would walk outside, pretending to be tired from work, but as soon as I got into his car, everything changed. He would lean over, kiss my cheek softly, and say, "My queen is here." Sometimes he brought flowers. Other times, my favorite chocolate or fresh mangoes from the countryside. We didn't go to expensive places. That was too risky. We preferred quiet corners of the city, hidden cafes, lonely beaches, small art shops, or just long drives on country roads. Once, we drove for 2 hours just to reach a peaceful hill where we could watch the sunset. We sat on a blanket, eating bread and fruit, while the wind played with our hair. I laid my head on his shoulder, and he started telling me stories from his past, stories of his childhood in Equatorial Guinea, his early years in politics, his struggles, his mistakes, and the moments he wished he could change. I listened quietly, feeling closer to him every second. And then, he would kiss me gently. Not rushed. Not greedy. Just full of feeling, like he was saying things his mouth couldn't speak. One day, after a long week at school, I was exhausted. I had been dealing with parents, reports, and a small problem with one of the teachers. I didn't even feel like going out. But Balthasar said, "Come. Let the world wait. You need to smile today." We went to a quiet place near a lake, but as soon as we got there, it started raining. I laughed and said, "Let's go back to the car," but he pulled me back and whispered, "No. Stay. Dance with me." We danced in the rain, wet, cold, but happy. His hands around my waist, my arms around his neck, and the world faded away. Then he kissed me slowly, deeply, with so much emotion that I forgot everything else, my job, my marriage, my worries. In that moment, I was just a woman, in love. In the rain, Balthasar loved asking me about my childhood. He would say, "Tell me what little Eliana was like," and I would tell him about growing up in Guinea, walking to school barefoot sometimes, helping my mother cook, playing under the mango trees, and reading books by candlelight when there was no power. He listened like it was the most beautiful story he had ever heard. In return, he told me about his early days studying abroad, how lonely he felt in foreign cities, how he dreamed of one day helping his country become better. He was proud, but he also showed me his pain, his regrets. I think that's when I truly fell in love with him, not just because he was strong or successful, but because he was honest with me. He let me see the real him. Every time he had to leave, it felt like a piece of me was leaving too. He would always drop me a few streets away from my house, just to be careful. Before I got out of the car, we would sit in silence for a few seconds. Then he would hold my hand and say, "Eliana, remember, I am always with you. Even when I'm far." Then he would kiss my hand, my cheek, and sometimes only when we were sure no one was watching, my lips. I would walk away slowly, my heart full, my eyes sometimes wet, and the smell of his cologne still on my clothes. Many people asked me why I always looked happy these days. Some said I looked younger, more relaxed. They didn't know that after school, behind the walls of duty and respect, there was a world full of soft kisses, laughter, and shared dreams. I loved Balthasar deeply. Not in a loud way. Not in a way that needed the world's approval. But in a way that was private. Secret. I was alone. And every time I saw his car waiting by the school gate, my heart would skip a beat, just like it did the first day in Seville. It was a hot Wednesday afternoon in Guinea. The school day had just ended. The children were leaving with their parents, the teachers were packing up their books, and I was finishing some documents in my office. I looked out the window and there he was again. Botasa waiting. He was wearing a light blue shirt and dark sunglasses, leaning back in his car, calm and confident. Like always, my heart beat faster. I grabbed my bag, locked my office, and walked toward the gate. One of the teachers, Miss Adoma, waved at me and said, "You're leaving early today, headmistress." I smiled and said, "Yes, I have a quick meeting in town." I lied. But it was the only way. As soon as I got into Botasa's car, he leaned over, kissed my cheek, and said, "You look tired, my love. Let me take that stress away." We drove out of the school area, away from the busy roads, and toward one of our favorite spots, a quiet beach outside the city where few people ever went. As we drove, we talked about simple things. He asked me about my students. I asked him about his work in finance. He made a joke about a corrupt politician, and we laughed, but I didn't know that trouble was coming. As we were getting closer to the beach, my phone rang. It was Edmund, my husband. I quickly pressed the silent button. Botasa looked at me and asked him. I nodded. Yes. I'll call him later. He touched my hand gently and said, "You don't have to explain." I understand, but still, I felt nervous. Edmund usually didn't call during the day unless something important had happened. I sent a quick message in a meeting. "I'll call you back soon." I put the phone in my bag and tried to forget. But my heart was not calm anymore. We reached the beach just before sunset. The sky was orange and gold, and the waves were soft and slow. There were no people around, just birds and the sound of the sea. We sat on a rock, close together. Botasa put his arm around me, and I rested my head on his shoulder. "If I could freeze this moment," he said, "I would never let it go." I smiled. He kissed me softly. Once. Then again. Longer. We talked about our dreams, what we would do if life was simpler. Maybe open a school by the sea. Or travel the world. Or just live quietly, without secrets. I forgot about the world for a while. I forgot I was a wife, a headmistress, a woman with responsibilities. But the world had not forgotten me. After about 40 minutes, we stood up to walk along the sand. Botasa held my hand gently. We laughed, kicked the water with our feet, and kissed when no one was looking. But then it happened. I heard a voice behind me. A voice I knew, Eliana. I froze. I turned slowly. And there, standing with wide eyes and her mouth slightly open, was Miss Adoma, the teacher from my school. She was wearing sport clothes and holding a water bottle. She had clearly come for a walk or a jog on the beach. She looked at me. Then at Botasa. Then back at me. I tried to speak, but nothing came out. Botasa, calm as ever, stepped forward and said, "Good afternoon, ma'am. Is everything alright?" Miss Adoma didn't respond at first. Then she said, "Good afternoon, sir." I didn't know the headmistress was her. I forced a smile. My heart was beating loudly in my ears. "I was just showing a guest around," I said. "This is Mr. Ngonga. He's a friend from Spain." She nodded slowly. "Okay. Nice to meet you, sir." Botasa reached out and shook her hand politely. Miss Adoma looked at me again. Her eyes said everything. She didn't speak. She knew we left the beach quickly. I sat quietly in the car, my hands shaking a little. Botasa looked over and said, "It's all right. She won't say anything." I didn't speak. "She respects you," he continued. "And even if she suspects something, she has no proof." But my mind was full of fear. What if she told someone? What if the school board found out? What if Edmund knew? I couldn't even finish that thought. Balthasar held my hand and said, "Look at me." I looked at him. "You are not wrong for loving me," he said gently. "You are a woman with a heart. And hearts don't always follow the rules." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay next to Edmund in bed. He was reading a book, peaceful, calm. I watched him, feeling both love and guilt in my heart. He looked over and smiled. "How was your day?" "Busy," I whispered. "A little stressful." "You'll feel better tomorrow," he said. I smiled weakly. He didn't know that I had almost lost everything in one afternoon at school. Miss Adoma didn't say a word about the beach. She greeted me like normal. But her eyes were different now. Softer, maybe even understanding. One day, she came to my office and said, "Headmistress, I just want to say I admire your strength. No matter what people think, you always remain calm and kind." I looked at her carefully. I didn't know exactly what she meant. But deep inside, I felt she was telling me something. "Your secret is safe with me." That day taught me something important. Loving Balthasar was beautiful, yes. But it was also dangerous. One small moment, one small mistake, and everything could fall apart. But still I couldn't stop. Even with the fear. Even with the risk, because what we had was more than just kisses and secrets. It was a calm Thursday evening. Edmund was working late at the university, preparing a lecture. I was at home, alone. The lights were low. I had made myself some tea, but I wasn't drinking it. Instead, I sat at the small desk in the corner of our bedroom, holding a pen in my hand, staring at an empty piece of paper. I don't know why, but that night I felt like writing. I felt full of love, of questions, of fear, of longing. I had too many things to say to Balthasar. Things I never had the courage to say in person. So I began to write. "Dear Balthasar, I don't know why I'm writing this letter tonight. Maybe because my heart is tired. Maybe because I miss you too much, or maybe because I'm afraid. Sometimes I lie in bed beside Edmund and wonder, if you were here instead, would you hold me closer? Would you listen to the silence between my words and understand what I'm not saying? With you, I feel like a woman again. Not a wife. Not a headmistress. Not a public figure, just a woman. Just me. You make me laugh in ways Edmund forgot. You make me feel seen, even when I say nothing. But loving you is like holding fire in my hands. It warms me. Yes, but I'm always afraid of being burned. Sometimes I want to run away with you. Sometimes I want to end it all and go back to my quiet life. And sometimes I just want to stop time and live in one of our stolen afternoons forever. I don't know where we are going. I don't even know if we'll ever be more than this, but I do know one thing. I love you, not loudly, not publicly, but deeply, and that love, even if hidden, is real. Love, Eliana. I folded the letter and placed it in my diary. I never sent it, and I never told him. I wrote it about 2 weeks later. Balthasar came to Guinea again. It was a Friday afternoon, and he picked me up from school as usual. That day, we went to a small hotel just outside the city. It was quiet, clean, and private. We spent the evening together, talking, kissing, laughing. After dinner, he handed me a small shopping bag and smiled. "For you," he said. I opened the bag and saw a beautiful but very short miniskirt inside. It was red, soft, and clearly made to catch attention. I looked at him and raised my eyebrows. "You want me to wear this?" He laughed. "Yes. Just once. You'd look beautiful in it." I smiled politely but shook my head. "No, Balthasar. That's not me." "Why not?" he asked. "It's just for fun. Just for us. Because I'm not a girl anymore," I said softly. "I'm a woman. A leader. A wife. A mother figure to hundreds of students. I can't dress like that. Not even in private." He looked disappointed but not angry. "I understand," he said after a moment. "I just wanted to see you free, wild, like the Eliana you are with me." I touched his face gently. "I am free when I'm with you. Not because of the clothes I wear, but because you see the real me." He smiled then. That quiet, slow smile that always made me melt. Botesa was a powerful man. In meetings, people feared him. In his work, he made big decisions, handled millions, and caught criminals. But with me, he was soft. He once told me, "You're the only one who tells me no and still makes me feel respected." That night, even though I didn't wear the miniskirt, I wore a simple long dress, and he looked at me like I was the most beautiful woman in the world. We danced slowly in the hotel room, no music playing, just the rhythm of our hearts. We didn't always need big adventures. Some days, we just sat in his car outside my school, holding hands in silence. Other times, we talked for hours about our past, our regrets, our hopes, our fears. Once, I told him about the letter I wrote. But I didn't show it to him. He looked at me and said, "One day, I hope you let me read it. But even if you don't, I already know what your heart is trying to say." People often think secret love is full of lies. But in truth, my love for Botesa was the most honest feeling I had ever known. I never pretended with him. I never wore a mask. I never lied about how I felt. He once asked me, "Do you feel guilty for loving me?" I answered honestly, "Yes." And no. Yes, because I'm married. No, because you make me feel alive. That letter is still in my diary, hidden between the pages. Sometimes, I take it out and read it. I cry a little. I smile a little, and I wonder, if I had sent it, would anything be different? Would he have left everything and asked me to be with him forever? Would I have had the courage to say yes? Or would we still be here, two souls meeting between lies and love, between duty and desire? There are moments in life that feel like slow motion, when everything around you is moving, but your heart stops. This is the story of one of those moments. Is the day everything changed. It was a quiet Saturday afternoon in Guinea. The sky was bright, the air was warm, and everything felt peaceful. Botesa had come to town again, officially for a finance conference. But we both knew he had come to see me. We planned to spend the afternoon at a quiet guest house outside the city, away from eyes, away from noise, and away from danger. Also, we thought. I told Edmund I would be going to visit an old friend from my university days. He nodded and said, "Enjoy. You work too hard, Eliana." His trust made my heart ache, but I pushed the feeling away. Botesa picked me up at 2 p.m. We drove out of the city, past the markets, past the farms, and into a quiet area with trees and hills. The guest house was small and simple, just a few rooms, a garden, and a view of the mountains inside the room. The light was soft. There were fresh flowers on the table. He had arranged them for me. "Do you like it?" he asked, smiling. I nodded. "It's perfect." We sat on the sofa, drank tea, talked about work, life, and silly things. We kissed, we laughed, we held hands. It felt like a dream, but dreams don't last forever. Around 4 p.m., there was a knock at the door. Botesa looked surprised. "Did you tell anyone you were coming here?" "Of course not," I said, confused. He got up and opened the door slowly, and I heard the loudest silence I had ever known. I stood up, and there he was, Edmund, my husband. Standing in the doorway, staring at Botesa first, then at me. He didn't speak. He didn't shout, he didn't move. He just stood there, eyes wide, face frozen, as if his soul had left his body. "Edmund," I whispered, my voice trembling. He stepped inside. Looked at me. Then looked at the room, the teacups, the flowers, the soft music playing in the background. He understood everything in a single second. "So this is it," he said quietly. "This is what you've been doing behind my back." I walked forward, trying to explain. "Please, Edmund, I can. Don't touch me," he said firmly, stepping back. Botesa, calm but serious, stepped forward. "Mr. Edmund, please. Let's not do this here. Don't talk to me," Edmund snapped. You've been sleeping with my wife." No one said anything for a few seconds. Just the sound of a bird outside the window. "I trusted you," Edmund said, turning to me again. "I gave you everything. 10 years of my life, Eliana. I loved you, and you do this." I tried to speak. "It wasn't supposed to happen. I didn't plan this." "You didn't plan it." Then how long has it been going on? He asked. I looked down. My silence gave him the answer. He laughed a bitter, painful laugh. I should have known. The late nights. The strange meetings. The sudden trips. You think I'm a fool? Botessa stepped forward again. Please, Edmund. We never meant to hurt you. You already did, Edmund said sharply. Both of you. Then he looked at me one last time. You made your choice, Eliana. I hope you're happy with it. And with that, he walked out. I stood in the middle of the room, shaking. Botessa came to me and tried to hold me, but I pulled away. I didn't want this, I whispered. Not like this. It's not your fault, he said softly. We were only following our hearts. Yes, I said. But hearts don't pay the price. People do. I sank onto the sofa, tears falling silently. I knew in that moment, nothing would ever be the same. 2 weeks later, I received the envelope. Inside were the divorce papers. There was no letter. No note. Just papers. Edmund had made his decision. He didn't want to talk. He didn't want to argue. He just wanted it to end. I cried for nights. Not because I didn't love Botessa, but because I had hurt a man who once loved me deeply and truly, a man I once called husband. When I told Botessa, he said maybe this is the start of our new life, but I didn't answer. I wasn't ready. I was broken, confused, full of guilt and questions. I had loved 2 men and lost one of them forever. Now, whenever I pass by the university, I wonder if Edmund still thinks about me. Does he hate me? Does he miss me? Did I destroy a good thing for a love that might not survive the storm? I don't know. But I do know this: some love stories are full of passion, beauty, and fire, but even fire when uncontrolled can burn everything. The day I signed the divorce papers, I felt like I was standing in an empty house after a big storm. Nothing was left in place. My marriage was gone, my home was cold, and my heart was tired. I returned to school, but things were not the same. Some teachers avoided me. Some students whispered behind my back. Miss Adoma tried to be kind. She brought me tea during break time and asked how I was feeling. I told her I was fine, but inside, I was empty. I was still the headmistress, but I felt like I had no power, no joy, no peace. Lonely nights. Every night, I lay in bed and stared at the ceiling. I would open my diary and read the letter I had once written to Botessa, the one I never sent. Now, I was glad I never gave it to him, because the love I had written about was gone, and the man I had given everything to had walked away. Some nights, I thought about Edmund, the way he used to make tea for me in the mornings, the way he used to wait up for me when I came home late, the way he believed in me before I broke his heart. I wanted to call him. I wanted to say I was sorry, but I didn't, because I knew I had crossed a line I could never return from. One afternoon, while sitting in the school garden, a student came and sat beside me. A young girl, maybe 12 years old. She looked up at me and said, Madam Eleanor, why do you look so sad these days? I smiled weakly. Sometimes adults feel sad too, I said. Even when they are strong. She nodded. My mama says, if you play with fire, you must be ready for the burn. Is that true? I looked into her eyes, so young, so honest, and I said, yes. It's very true what I know now. I loved Botessa with all my heart, but in the end, love is not enough. Not if it lives in lies. Not if it destroys others. Not if it ends in silence. Sometimes, the love that burns the brightest disappears the fastest.